Hello, and welcome to my 4th episode of this month's Halloween special. Today, I'm going to be reading some strange sleep stories and alien stories. To start, I'm going to read a few of your stories, and to end, I'm going to read one of my own. Now, if this is your first time here, then you can still listen to this video, but I only ask that you will check out my playlist in the description so that you can watch the previous videos in this series. Also, if you have Instagram, I will leave my Instagram link in the description below too. You can contact me if you have any spooky stories you would like to share. For now, sit back, relax, if you can, and let's begin. Story number 1. Years ago, my mum had a boyfriend that got killed on the dual carriageway when she was just 17. A few years ago, she had a dream that she was at the cemetery by his graveside. In the dream, she noticed the gravestone was wobbly, so she was sat there just wobbling it back and forth. She wakes up with a start because my dad is causing a commotion, and he's screaming that the bed is shaking, coming from a man who is as tough as they come and doesn't believe in anything paranormal at all. The bed wouldn't stop shaking for ages, and nothing was causing it. Story number 2. Okay, so the first time I experienced sleep paralysis, I remember being half awake and could feel something on my feet whilst in bed. I remember trying to move and look to see what was there. I thought maybe one of my cats must be curled up on my bed, but I couldn't move. I panicked and eventually managed to wake myself up, but found nothing on my bed or even in my room. I didn't think about it much at first until it got much worse. I went through a phase of having sleep paralysis at least twice a week during a stressful period in my life. Every night the situation was very similar, almost reoccurring. I would wake up and I'd have the sensation something was wrong. Something was in my room with me. I wouldn't be able to move or speak. Eventually, I would see a creature crawl down the wall in front of my bed. It's hard to describe what it was, but it was almost like a giant black spider with an expressionless, human-looking face. It had hollow eyes and no mouth. I would then feel it sitting at my feet, staring at me. It would sit and stare at me for what felt like hours. All the time, I wouldn't be able to move or shout for help. This happened so often, it would almost feel strange if I hadn't seen him for a long time. Once I moved house about a year ago, weirdly, it stopped. That is until about a week ago. I had another sleep paralysis experience. I woke up and could hear noise, almost like static buzzing. It sounded almost like the TV was on. Confused, I went to speak to my boyfriend thinking he might have mistakenly switched on his laptop or something similar. It was then I realized I couldn't speak or move to get his attention. So I started panicking, as I hadn't experienced this in such a long time. To my horror, there was the same sensation. Something was in the room. something was laid on my feet. And there he was again, the creepy ghoul spider, staring right back at me. Story number 3. So this is my true account of an encounter I had a few years ago. Back in 1991, I used to help run a bar in Reading, Berkshire. I was often the one who locked up at night once the bar closed, and I would then walk through the town centre on my way home, usually at around 2 or 3 in the morning. On this particular night I locked up and began my walk home alone, no one else to be seen on the town centre high street. As I walked, my eye caught a small, brief, white flash of light in the night sky, some distance away in front of me, beyond the tops of the building, then another flash of the same white light, though this time to my right, directly above the buildings. And then it happened. Something was above me. A sudden sensation of heat flowed over me. I stopped and looked up. Directly above me, in a very real way, was a silent, unmoving, large black triangle. This thing was real, solid, ominous in its presence. Bright white rectangular light sat at each of its corners. At its centre, a single small piercing round red light. Its black triangular shape was well defined, blocking out the stars on the clear night. No noise, no movement, only heat. And there it stayed above me for what could have been a minute, or for all I know, an hour. I remember talking directly at it, saying, "Okay, what on earth are you?" Looking back, I realized this thing was huge. This vehicle, be it military or something more, something so unlike anything else, soon began to drift to my right, then simply faded out of sight. I recall the strange sensation of time changing. I cannot recall how long I stood under this object. I remember being left alone again on my walk home. I remember thinking, I believe. But I can tell you, it's a very true story. Story number 4. This story is one of my own. I have a long list of stories I could tell, but so many of them are intertwined. This one in particular comes from a very stressful time, and this one in particular ignited a spiritual psychosis that I will tell another time. But for now, here is my experience as I wrote it in February 2018. Slightly edited for readability, as when I write dreams, I can be a little sloppy. After being asleep not even very long, I started to hear a loud, industrial, high-pitched buzzing sound in my ear, like a chainsaw on metal. It then turned into the sound of bumblebees or wasps. Again, very loud in my right ear. Then I heard and felt a loud shudder, almost like a dog shaking off water when it's wet, but deep in my ear. I couldn't help but think, alien. It felt familiar, like back in 2012 when I had a fever. So, pretty soon into hearing these sounds, I understood I was actually in a sleep paralysis, and my mind started to truly wake up. But of course, my body didn't. My first thought was, because I'm so aware of sleep paralysis, maybe I really could push through it and just sit up. This was not the case. I would try and pull my body up from my lying position, but it was like I was glued there with cement. So I got a bit nervous and decided to relax and let it pass. But the more I relaxed, the noises got louder and more threatening. So extremely loud. Like I had been abducted by aliens and they were doing experiments on me. I was scared. I felt my arm forcefully, yet slowly lift as I tried to pull my eyelids open with my fingers. I did this aggressively. I could see my room, but only what was ahead of me, from where I had fallen asleep, and every time I tried to turn my eyes to the right, it was just big black blobby shadows. I thought of what I'd heard about before, like demons and so on, and tried very hard not to believe that was true. So I decided to close my eyes, but still nothing was helping, even when I tried to relax. I was terrified. There were a couple moments during this back and forth with me trying to wake up or fall back asleep where I could feel myself laughing, as if my ribs were being tickled under the skin, like a deep tickle, causing me to giggle against my will. It felt demonic, alien. I tried to pick up my phone off the floor, which, as you can imagine, was an extreme struggle. I felt like I was fighting against the deadest of weights ever, as if I had not one working muscle in my body. However, I finally picked it up. I held it up to my face, but my eyes were still focused on the wardrobe ahead of me, the last thing I was looking at before I closed my eyes to sleep. Although I could feel my hand in front of my face, I couldn't see my hand or the phone. I felt as if I was looking through my hand and phone. This was so creepy. So I felt my hand go to my head and grab my hair and physically pull my head off the pillow. I could feel my skin stretching as I was more likely to pull my skin off rather than my head from the pillow. The mirror on the wardrobe only showed my face staring blankly at myself. I was still. I don't know how it happened, but suddenly I was sat upright. I was so happy and relieved, but weirdly, I could still only see the mirrored wardrobe in front of me. I could feel my body was sat upright, but my eyes were locked in the same visual. I tried to get up and walk to the bedroom door. I couldn't see where I was going due to my frozen vision locked on the wardrobe, but made it down the hallway somehow, touching the walls for support. I reached my living room door, feeling around for the light. I didn't know what to do. I'm trying and trying to see what's in front of me, but I can't. I then feel myself back in my bed, and I'm sad. I then hear my partner at the time, voice behind me. No real words, but as if he was there. He was with me, and my eyes opened. I'm in the exact position I was in when I fell asleep, facing the wardrobe. I didn't shoot out of bed in a frenzy. I simply just opened my eyes. I looked around. I then realized my phone hadn't been touched. I hadn't got out of bed at all, and I was still under the blanket. Everything I thought I had done in that time, I hadn't. All the strength it took wasn't real. The sounds, the giggling, the shadows, not real. I didn't pull my eyes open or pull my hair. I just woke up. However, my head was feeling painful and had extreme pressure around it, and a strong pain in the right side of my neck. Right side where I heard the buzzing. Right side where I saw the blobby shadows. Of course, me being me, a believer of everything, I just felt convinced I was abducted by aliens, so didn't sleep after that for a long time. So, what do you think about these stories? Have you ever had an alien encounter? Is sleep paralysis merely scientific? Or is it spiritual? Thank you so much for listening. Again, if you want to see the videos I have done prior to this one, I will leave a playlist in the description below. Also, the link to my Instagram will be in the description below too. I can't speak for everyone else's stories, though I definitely do believe I am being 100% honest about my own story. And soon I will go on to tell you what this led to, how it was a piece in the puzzle of my life. Thank you for listening. Sleep tight.